Today, we're announcing that we're offering tax services now in-house at FRAXN. So without further ado, I need to introduce you guys to our new tax leader, Kelly Parkhill.
Hi, everybody. I'm excited to be here and work with everybody and try to help ease your tax concerns and questions.
Kelly just joined us recently, like I said, newest member of the team. So we're super pumped to have her and see all the ways in which she can help you on your taxes. Make sure you're saving as much money as you can when it comes to taxes. So I'm super excited about the new offerings. We're going to have comprehensive tax services all under one roof, all in-house here at FRAXN. So I'm super pumped for the path that lies ahead and the next chapter here for us. And all the ways we can help y'all deliver more value to y'all and address y'all's needs even more. So Kelly, why don't you give the audience here a little bit more of your background and let them get to know you a little bit better.
Great. I am recently acclimated Texan. I moved here about 3 years ago, but fun fact, I lived here for the first 4 years of my life in Wichita Falls, where my dad was stationed in the Air Force. Before that, the majority of my life was spent in Wisconsin. You probably hear that Wisconsin accent that I don't hear. But my last 6.5 years have been with a small accounting firm in Wisconsin. I was working remotely in Texas. We did work with a lot of people from across the country, seen all kinds of different tax situations from virtually every state. One of my favorite things about Texas is that there is no state income tax, so that makes things a lot easier. But prior to my work in the accounting firm, I have worked in a large number of various industries in accounting roles throughout many different types of businesses. Very acclimated to working with people from all kinds of different business types and backgrounds.
Well, welcome back to Texas, I guess I should say, and not welcome to Texas. Glad you're here. Glad you're escaping the cold and the tundra of the north up in Wisconsin. Yeah. Glad you're not only in Texas, but with FRAXN now. I think your background is going to lend itself super well to our clients and their tax needs. I guess with that being said, we should maybe kind of let the audience know some of the specific services we will have.
Yeah, so in addition to, the business tax returns, whether it's S corporation, C corporation, or if it's what the IRS calls a disregarded entity, and reporting on a Schedule C, we're going to work with all of those different variations along with the personal returns associated with the business owners of each of the businesses. We're going to also be offering 1099 services and reporting for businesses that probably have not necessarily been understood in the past. So we're happy to help guide those decisions and those reportings that need to be made, helping with estimated tax payments, helping with tax planning, tax advisory, helping assess the current situation of the business formation to see if a different formation makes more sense. And sales tax filings in any state that business is operating in. We're going to be happy to help with those as well.
Yeah, I think the 1099s especially are going to be helpful. Those always seem to be a stumbling block for a lot of folks. So
for sure,
if they get done at all. And also, I think just the planning and strategy component that you mentioned, I'm guilty of this myself on my personal taxes, but you don't really think about it, or you don't like to think about taxes and what might be coming down the pike until after the fact. And then at that point, it's obviously too late, right? So some of y'all might be asking, well, y'all been doing great with bookkeeping. Why are you adding tax services? I already have a CPA or a tax professional I work with. And if you do, that's great. We'll obviously continue working with your tax accountant or tax professional. But if we can simplify things for you guys, then we want to do that. And if that means we can add these services to our repertoire here at FRAXN, and it helps y'all not have to communicate or brokerage a relationship right between us and a tax accountant. We can just keep it all.
Try to make it as seamless as possible.
Exactly.
Taxes are scary to most people, so we're trying to take away that fear factor with anything to do with your taxes, your finances, your books, all the things that most people are not excited to think about.
All right, so Kelly, obviously, all of our clients file taxes, their business personally. all tax professionals do that, right? That's nothing unique or anything that we're going to do differently. But I think one thing that we will be doing differently that a lot of our clients don't have currently is taking a more proactive approach to tax services, right? Not waiting till the end of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the benefits of working with us is that we're going to offer some tiered package options that will include quarterly meetings, monthly meetings, biannual meetings, whatever works best for your business. And we, as your bookkeeper, will also have that insight as to how your business operates and having that relationship with you to actually work on a much more personal level to do some planning to make sure that you're making estimated payments that need to be made and that we're adjusting or flexing depending on where your business is going, throughout the course of the year, because, in a perfect world, everything is the same but better than the last year. But the real world isn't like that. And so we need to be able to flex and look at what your business is doing and what that's going to look like from a tax impact standpoint so that we can plan accordingly and make sure that you've got your estimated payments in, reducing penalties and interest that are charged by the IRS.
It's kind of the sexy thing to talk about S-Corps or S-Elections, for your business. But I feel like some people can get swept up in that and think, oh, I have to do it. But meeting with you can actually break it down for them and be like, well, it actually isn't that much of a benefit, right? Or maybe it is a benefit and you really should do it.
Absolutely. And I've in the past for clients that have made that election, I have, shown the side-by-side comparison of, if you don't make that change, this is what it looks like. If you do, this is what it looks like. And this is how much you're going to save. And it's usually pretty dramatic. So it's definitely something to talk about and consider.
Yeah. And you mentioned the estimated payments, the penalties and interest. It always amazes me how, it's relatively simple, right? To go in and make those estimated payments. But when you don't, it's hundreds, thousands of dollars oftentimes.
Yeah. I've seen clients be penalized upwards of $10,000 for missing those estimated payments. And, that's just, people say, well, I'd rather keep my money in the pocket all year and I'll just pay it at the end of the year when I file my taxes. But you're paying the IRS way more than you could have possibly made by keeping it in your pocket all year. So we definitely want to avoid giving the IRS a nickel more than they need to have.
Yeah, that's one thing I think everyone has in common universally is I want to pay as little to the IRS as possible. Huh?
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's obviously a big value we see us offering to clients is that strategy component, the planning component, staying on top of it throughout the year. And like we said, it really is pretty straightforward and simple. It's not like it's 20 hours a week or something they're devoting to this. It's simple check-ins with you, easy conversations, making sure we're aligned, they're aligned, and everyone kind of knows what's coming down the pike, so to speak. So, and another thing I love, Kelly, about the regular meetings, you would have with clients is that obviously since we're doing their bookkeeping, we have the financials. That's a very quick pass on, to you. I feel like it's probably going to eliminate any sort of lag our clients typically have with their CPAs or tax professionals on, if there is a change that needs to be made in operations or in their books or how they're classifying something.
Having direct access to the client's books is going to benefit the client immediately because there's not any back and forth with, the client or another resource that is working on that bookkeeping. And if there's things that need to be recategorized with regards to what's been called OB3, the one big beautiful bill, we can implement those changes either retroactively or going forward, depending on when things kick in. I do have access to a lot of great resources to help navigate things that, are changing because, change doesn't always happen with the IRS in a very clean way always. So sometimes, for example, they talked about the overtime exemption for taxes and, what does that look like? So that's going to involve some reporting by the employer as to, breaking out that overtime or somehow disclosing that so that when those employees are reporting on their individual 1040s, that they have a way of identifying what that is.
Makes sense. I feel like a lot of our clients, it's kind of a check-in in Q4 at some point with their CPA or tax professional. And then at that point it might be, well, hey, I should have implemented this thing back in like February.
Right.
So Kelly, you mentioned you've been in the industry for years. I guess in your experience, what are maybe some of the bigger stumbling blocks or misconceptions or points of confusion for business owners?
Top three that come to mind are not necessarily sync with filing their taxes, but they are tax related that come up throughout the year. The first of which is going to be the employees that they hire when they fill out their new hire paperwork. One of the forms that they have to complete is a W-4, and that advises the employer what the withholding should be when they get their paycheck each pay period. A lot of times employees really have no idea what they're doing and will ask the employer for help. They should never give tax advice, but that is definitely an area that we could have some elaborate conversations on. Second point is going to be 1099s. Most people tend to think, it doesn't apply to me, but the fact is the IRS does require that 1099s be issued. They did just raise the threshold. It used to be 600. I believe it's up to 2,000 now going forward. Okay. However, there's a lot of payments to our vendors and suppliers and whatever that may be subject to 1099 reporting that people have not really, looked at or thought about in the past. And the IRS does have, the ruling that if you're supposed to file the 1099s that you do. If you do not file a 1099, they absolutely can come back and disallow those expenses. So that is pretty significant and a good reason why we should be looking at those very, very frequently and making sure that we're compliant with that. Last of which is I see a lot of times employers like to give their employees bonuses, and they don't really think about the fact that anything that you give an employee that's worth more than, I believe it's $50, is subject to, payroll taxes. So if you give an employee a $100 gift card, technically that needs to get added onto their W-2 and it's subject to taxation. There's a lot of different types of examples of bonuses that can be given, even just straight up cash. Giving somebody $1,000 without putting it through their payroll is a big no-no.
Yeah, no, I feel like that last one, that rings home. I feel like I've had discussions with a number of clients where I guess as a reward or something for employees, they'll do something like that.
It's fine to do that. It's absolutely fine to do that. However, you can't skip the step of reporting it.
That always seems to be a point of confusion for clients of like, well, does this person or vendor qualify for me to pay 1099? I feel like a lot of clients think of 1099s as like subcontractors. Like, did someone help me perform the service for my client? Okay, I need to 1099 them and send them something.
Correct. Most people don't realize that you should be issuing a 1099 to whoever you pay rent to, regardless of what their tax categorization is. So all rent is supposed to be reported on a 1099 regardless.
Okay.
Legal fees are all supposed to be reported on a 1099. So, but yeah, we can happily navigate through those scenarios with clients. Best practice would be to make sure that anytime you're making a payment to anybody, ask them for a W-9. So you can download it from the IRS website, ask them for a W-9, and just keep that on file. Share that with us, whatever the case may be. And, once we have that, it's a lot easier to decide whether or not it's applicable to report that. And if it's not applicable, then at least we've got the documentation to show that we did not need to do so. It's also easier to get it way up front rather than after, December 31st, we're asking for it. And people are like, I'm not going to pay that. I'm not going to give that to you because I don't want to report that income. So trying to get it after the fact is very difficult from a lot of people.
Yeah. And I guess just harkening back to the earlier discussion of the quarterly meetings or, the regular meetings throughout the year. That's
exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Stay on top of that and making sure we're not waiting till January 1st to request.
Right.
100 W-9s, right? Yeah.
Yeah, because if we've looked at everything throughout the course of the year and we're on top of things, then guess what? Your tax return is going to get filed on time. I've had experiences in the past where most businesses just automatically go on an extension because the work that goes into getting the bookkeeping up to date is extensive, and there's no way we can get them filed by March 15th. So the business has to go on extension, and then the individual has to go on extension, and nobody wants to have to do that.
Or maybe some people do, and they just want to delay.
But one point of importance is that while you can file an extension with the IRS, that only gives you an extension of time to file. It does not give you an extension of time to pay.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Even if you're not filing it until September, October, you're still required to make your payments by April 15th. So if you don't, you're going to have at least 5-6 months worth of penalties.
Penalties and interest
is avoidable.
No, that's a great point.
So just to recap, we are excited to start working with everybody. We're offering the business tax return services, which would include a 1065 for a partnership, 1120S for a S corporation, or an 1120C for a C corporation. In addition to those, we're offering the individual tax returns for the business owners, which would be your 1040 and or Schedule C if the business is not categorized as a separate entity. In addition to all those federal filings, we can also do your state filings as well. We're also excited to be offering the 1099 filing for all of our clients, and tax planning and tax advisory services will be available to, help make sure that you're maximizing your tax savings and keeping money in your pockets.
Yeah, Kelly, thanks again for joining. Super pumped to have you on the team here at FRAXN, and really excited for all the ways you're going to be able to help us serve clients better and the relationships and work you'll be doing with them. So, guys, thanks for tuning into our first FRAXN Tax Show. If you do want to learn more about our tax services and the work we'll be doing and offering, reach out to myself, to Patrick, to your account manager, to Kelly here, right? And we can give you guys some more info. There's also going to be a link in the description to Kelly's calendar. So click on that, get a meeting booked with her, and you guys can learn more and figure out the ways we can help provide even more value to y'all in addition to our bookkeeping. So thanks for tuning in, and we will see you guys next time.